Hi again everyone, welcome to part 2 of my daughter's gaming PC build. It's going a little bit longer than I thought, but I think everything we're covering has been pretty important. So hopefully you're getting something out of it. If you do, or you're just finding it enjoyable in any way, please subscribe to my video. Thank you. Okay, back again, took a little bit of a lunch break. What do you think we do next?
So we're going to put this massive cooler over my CPU.
Okay. There's something else we didn't put in yet, so we were waiting on that, right?
Yes, the RAM.
The RAM, you want to open that guy up?
Sure.
We'll push this aside for now. And hopefully we have no problems. I don't think we should. Let me... Yeah, there's plenty of room. This motherboard has plenty of room to the memory. Let's see if we get the memory on first or last, doesn't matter.
I'm going to...
Wow, that's fancy. I didn't even know what it looked like.
Yeah, these all light up.
Yeah, they're RGB.
And there's two of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Looks
That's
nice.
some fancy memory.
So you'll put these on first, or you'll put this on first?
I put the cooler on first, probably be better.
Okay. So.
Yeah, just leave them on the side for now. And we'll put them on. Now the cooler at this point is pretty straightforward. We just got to do a preparatory step first.
What is that?
On the bottom of that is that sticker thing I told you. We got to take that off. So you want to just go ahead and pull that off.
And then put my fingers all over it?
It doesn't matter at this point because we're going to clean it. And we're going to use alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, to make sure that there's no residual stickum or whatever Intel might have put when they tested the CPU. So we put some alcohol on here. You have any idea why we use alcohol? There's actually two reasons.
I mean, it's a good solvent for the...
It's a good solvent. It actually helps take care of stickum. You want to rub that on the bottom there? You can scrub it, give it a good scrubbing back and forth. It's not going to hurt it. But in addition to that, what alcohol does that regular soap and water doesn't do, because regular soap and water could do this as well. Yeah. It would be just as good in terms of cleaning it. But one thing soap and water does that we don't want to do is it will take forever to dry. Alcohol dries a lot faster, and we want to do the same thing with the CPU chip. You can just go ahead and wipe that on the CPU chip. Give it a nice scrubbing, because we know that Intel has tested this before they ship them out. They put them in a machine and test them. They probably put thermal paste on it too, I would bet, just to be safe, because they don't want to damage it. So that's good enough. Now we got to put the thermal paste. This particular one that I like to use is the Arctic Silver. Okay. And this little cap comes off. And then you want to squeeze out a pea-sized thing into the center of that. Now, you could spread it around, and my tendency tends to be to spread it around, but I found out that it doesn't really matter one way or the other. The pea-sized one is a little bit cleaner, because I don't have to use like a rubber glove or something to spread it. I like to squeeze it out first a little bit onto the thing, just to make sure we don't have anything that's bent up. That's okay, you can use this other one if you want.
The ketchup container? You don't want the liquid coming out?
Yeah, I don't want that little, whatever might have settled in terms of oils and stuff. I like to get that out of there. There you go. Don't get that on your skin. It takes forever to wash that out. And then you squeeze out a pea-sized distribution of that right to the center. It doesn't have to be a perfect pea. A little bit more, a little bit more. That's good right there. That's good. Perfect. And then we just close it out. I like to suck it back a little bit to get away from the tip, and then I put the top back on. Good. And then we got to put the cooler on. And this is where you want to make the thing distribute evenly. So let's get this the way we want it. We want it to go on this way. So it says Cooler Master in the right direction. And we want to place this. And you got to be careful. You got to make sure that these things are on the middle screw. That doesn't guarantee that that's where they'll wind up, though, unfortunately. As I've found out, sometimes they shift a little bit when you actually are putting it in. It's a real pain. And this thing will cut you if you press too hard on this cooler thing. So you got to be very careful about that. I may have to back it off with a screwdriver. Yeah, I got a flathead I'm going to use, and I'm going to back this off the spring tension so I can move this around a little bit. There we go. See how I got it in the center hole?
Yeah.
Let's get it oriented right again, and let's place it as squarely down as we can. I'll let you do that. Place it down and try to get all four screw heads into those little things at the same time. Go as squarely down as you can. Just try to make sure the heads get in there. You can start them by your fingers a little bit if you want. See if you can get them started. Well, it's okay. It's okay. They're stubborn at first. So make sure that they're straight up and down. If you look at them, you can see if they're straight up and down or not. That's straight up and down. Is that straight up and down? This one, that's not even in. So, yeah, you gotta push it down a little bit and screw it in. Yeah, there we go.
Now it's like a lot of resistance. So.
And a lot of resistance. Is the last one in? No, it's not in. So this one here has to get started. You have to push down on the bracket. You just want to get them all started by hand. I think they're all in at this point. I think this is the right screwdriver that you now can turn this and tighten them and do them the same way you did before. You want them diagonally, not to stress the motherboard. So go a little bit down, then try the other one.
It's hard to do with this screwdriver.
What was that?
The screwdriver keeps hitting against it.
Let me get a bigger screwdriver then. I want bigger ones. You have more leverage with a longer screwdriver too. And we don't put the fan on until after we get the memory in. They actually go quite a bit down, these.
Just worry about that sound.
I know, it's a weird sound, isn't it?
Oh,
I got it. I'll hold the motherboard. I'll hold the motherboard. Yeah.
Finally got some resistance.
You just keep going around a little bit at a time until you fill them bottom out at some point. You will fill them bottom out.
Yeah, they're almost there.
It's different for this model of the Cooler Master cooler. It actually has fins on the top, right on the top of the CPU as well. In addition to the pipes. These are heat transfer pipes made of copper. They're all bottomed out. You can't go any further. You're good. You are good. So now we got that. Now we're not going to put the fan on until after we get the memory on.
Okay.
But it just so happens, I did check this book, and it's different than my motherboard. It has 4 memory sockets.
Okay.
And there's a separate section in here for the memory socket themselves. And it tells you here that you need to do alternating sockets if you're only putting 2 in. So there's 2 grays and 2 blacks, right? Mm-hmm. The blacks are labeled B1 and A1, and the grays are labeled B2 and A2. On mine, you're supposed to always start with the 2s if you're only doing 2, but this one does not specify that at all. There's just a warning in here about if you have all 4 of them in, you may have to put some additional cooling just on the memory. But we're only putting 2 in, so I suggest we put the grays, because that'll be the furthest ones away from the fan that's on here. Then we can get the memory and do that. As you look at this, you can take a look at the first one. And of course, pick the one that's further away from you first. It's easier to see that one, right? You have to sort of force it out of there. They pop out. That metal part that's nice and shiny, that's its own heatsink. Notice though something here. This notch is not symmetrical. If you look at the socket, what do you notice? The same thing. It's not symmetrical at all. So you got to match the symmetry of the socket. So that's the other way, like that. And then go to the back gray one first because you can see it better. And you go straight. Well, first of all, if you got something, you got to open up these tabs. Only one side normally opens in a modern motherboard. This one's locked in place. These open up. And when you slip it in properly, they will close again.
Okay.
So pick the back gray, go straight in, and then press it down once it's going straight in. Takes a bit of force. It's kind of tedious. You don't want to do it, but it popped up. There we go. You hear it click, and you see the thing close popped. Okay. Then you try the other one. It takes a little bit of force. It's better on both sides. It tends to work better. There's some pretty memory DIMMs for the cost. The cost has come way down on these. Perfect. Got the symmetry right. That's it. You got it. You can close the other one. That's perfect. You got it right. You got a knack for it. So that takes care of the memory. We've saved this box, of course. That's a nice box. Nice quality box.
Comes with a cleaning cloth.
Wow. Didn't even notice that. You want to take the fingerprints off of that shiny mirror-like image it has on it, you can do that.
It looks fine.
there's only one thing left to this, and the motherboard is basically complete.
Okay.
And that's to get the fan on. So we got to reach over there and get that fan. I don't know if this fan shows it. I didn't look at the other one I put in, but a fan, when you normally put it in, it has little arrows on it that shows you which way the air is blown through. There's a general rule of thumb on these things that the air comes out the side that is opposite where a label would normally be. Or where this grid is, that's usually where the air comes out. And usually they put a little arrow just to remind you of that. I don't see it on here. What's more important here is where we're going to plug this into. The one that gives the power to the fan, not the RGB one. One of these is the RGB, right? That one is the RGB. This one is the power to the fan. You can tell because it has that little sleeve on it. So it's usually like right here on the motherboard, but let me double check. Since this thing doesn't even say much on the motherboard. It says CPU fan right there. So this is the CPU fan. That's where we want to plug it in. There's also another one for pump, which is usually over here somewhere. So one of those probably says pump and the other one says case fan.
That's
the RGB one, the one with the tongue on it that slips onto this little plastic piece here. Let me zoom in here.
There's a little...
Yeah, and you see a little tongue right here. That has to mate up with what's on the fan. So the fan has a matching one on it. See the little tongue here right there, those little two ridges? That has to go into that.
Yes.
And that's it. It can only go on one way. Push it down and you're done. There's a little warning on this thing, do not remove this label or your warranty gets void. But now we want to put the fan on, and then we'll actually start cable tying this thing once we have it on here. And we want to put the fan on here. So you want to keep the connection to the fan near that corner. So you just sort of take this and you sort of push it on there. Be careful you don't cut your fingers on this. See if you can get that thing on there. You want to level the top off if you can. You should hear it snap in place. Did you hear it snap?
I'm hearing snap.
It did snap though. You can see that the sides are in, right?
Yeah.
The sides are in. So that's it.
Are there screws for this or no?
No, it just sits there and it's pressure fit into the side here and it's level at the top. So we're good. Now I don't have my cutters. Look at my cutters so we can cable tie this guy. And what we want to do is we want to dress this, right?
Okay.
So we want to sort of bend it into a nice shape that sort of can be tucked out of the way. So if you normally find you can just tuck it 2 or 3 times like this, you can usually get it to where it will be out of the way. I like to fold that little label into it like this so we hide that little label. So that's done. At this point, we can put the power supply on it and test it real quick.
Okay. Does this go on?
No, that's gonna connect probably to the case so that it synchronizes with the rest of the RGB. There is a connector on the motherboard for RGB if you want the motherboard to control your RGB. And that may work, all the stuff in the case, but I think for now we connect it to the case one so they're all synchronized. So we can just leave that one dangling for now. That's the main power cord. Yeah, we're going to use that.
And all these wires?
And also connected, so the whole thing comes out as one big piece.
Oh, okay, so these are all connected. Okay.
These are the things that connect up to everything. So you pull the whole thing out of there. Pull the whole thing out of there, and then we just take this box away.
There's screws in there too.
Yeah, these are screws that we'll use to screw to the case. So it comes with its own case. You should always use the ones that came with the power supply for the case. If you have, not all power supplies seem to have it for some reason.
We want to move this.
And we're just going to leave it out on the table actually. As we test this, we're just going to leave it out. Put that back in here. And then this here, got those giant cables. Never leave these cable ties, these ones that are plastic and wire, in your computer. These can deteriorate over time and they can then cause short because there's an actual conducting wire inside of there. Only use pure plastic cable ties for anything. So this is actually, I'll put this back in the box in case we need it.
Yeah.
But other than that, we should never need that again. And so this is all out. And we can now do a sample test configuration. As you notice, it's got looks like the blades of the fan are blue.
Yeah.
So it probably just has a white LED in it. We'll find out when we plug it in. Make sure that the switch is off. So there's a switch right here. Always make sure it's in the off position. We're sort of in the middle, because I guess that's how it was packed. And then we get a test run here. We're going to put the motherboard back.
So where does that go in? Oh, it goes in here.
That's where the plug is going to go, right?
Okay.
So you can just put that off to the side even, and we can put the motherboard back in here and connect the motherboard up to the power. There are 3 things you have to connect with the motherboard. You have to connect these 2 connectors, 24-pin connector. This one looks like it may, let me see, I didn't even look. It looks like, yeah, it has 2 separate ones. It has a 20 and it has a 4. They got to go together. The 2 arrows go together, and then these, as a group, go into this. And you'll see one side of this has a place to catch this lap. The other side doesn't. So you just take that and you push it down. It takes some leverage to get that in there. But you got to put them in together until it locks in place.
Nothing clicked.
No? Did it look like it clicked down though? You heard it click? Yeah, yeah. Now, there's a second part here that's up near the CPU. Actually, it's not the CPU, it's the CPU regulators. This is critical. That has its own 12-volt power supply. So there's another connector in here somewhere that's just for that. Not this one. This one here is for a video card. It actually says PCIe. For the PCIe, that's what the video card is identified as power-wise. But somewhere in this bunch is another connector that has 8 pins on it. Let's see what this looks like. It might be it. What is it? Does it say anything? No, this is the only one. It's got 8 pins, 2 4s is what that is, right? 2 4s. They got to go together. There's no arrow on this one, so they just sort of go together, and again, they're going to go into this connector. Same thing, the thing that locks it down is on the outside here. This is one of the most difficult parts when you get it in the cases. You've got to get that connected. Yeah, it's on this side here. So you want this thing on this side.
Yeah, but like putting a square peg in a round.
I know, and imagine doing that in a tight quarter up in the corner of the case. Some cases makes this very difficult. You have to sort of put them in together and get them in there and then push them down in until they're both locked in. Imagine doing that when you're up in the corner with your hand crunched in here. It's a real pain. There we go. So now that's hooked up. Now, the other thing that I noticed, and we need that because I don't see a power on button on this motherboard. The more expensive motherboards have a power on button over here somewhere. This one doesn't have that. So what we're gonna have to do is, we're gonna have to come around to this end here. Let's just leave that up there for now. And we're gonna have to install pins on this header. This is called the I/O front panel header. That's the I/O header right here. These pins right here. Now on the more expensive motherboards, even from Asus, they give you one piece that goes in here. You mount all of the connectors to that piece first, and then the whole thing goes in one push-in. This one does not have that. So we have to look at the breakdown in the manual and find out what pins go where. It just so happens, I was telling my daughter right before we went live again, that this particular case came with what I believe, and I said this in the review too because I didn't know what that was. I had never seen that before. It came with a second set wires and LED switches. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook these up. So I'm going to open these up and we're going to make it like this is the front panel case. On one part you have a part that connects to the header on the motherboard. That's the part with these little push pin things. They're all labeled. You look at them very carefully here.
HD LED.
HD LED, the hard drive light emitting diode. So this is the one that has to go for HD LED. Anything that's an LED, which is the power on LED, which is another one of these somewhere. It's actually dual. For some reason they always split the ones for the power on into 2 separate ones. This has polarity to it if it controls an LED. So you'll see a plus and a minus actually on that one. So you have to make sure you get the plus and the minus in the right place. And they're all defined in the book under the system panel connector. So this is the layout. You see that the empty blank pins, 2 on the bottom, 1 on the top. Well, what do we have here? Do we have the same thing, 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top that are missing on the actual thing? So if this is the right orientation, and we got to get the wires connected to that in that order. So this is a good practice too.
Yeah.
So we pick whatever you want to start with. I like to start with one of the power, like the power switch. We really only need the power switch one to work here for purposes of our test.
Okay.
Or we could take a screwdriver, I've done that too, and just short out the 2 that are for the power.
Power.
Right. So the power one are these 2 top ones on the top left of this bracket. And the plus is the left and the minus is the right. That's a power LED or the power switch? Which one do you have? That's a power switch. I got the wrong one here. Power switch is next to that. So for the switch, there's no polarity to it. You just have to put the 2 pins in. So that's the 3rd and 4th pin at the top. So these 2 right here, 3rd and 4th.
This way?
The other side of it is. Yeah, that side. Third and fourth is for the power switch.
Which way does it go?
Yep.
Wait, does it go?
There's no polarity to it. I like to make these switches so I can read it. So I'll just put them in like this and push them straight down like that.
Okay.
So that's the power switch. To turn it on, once we activate the power supply, all we have to do is push this little button. It's a momentary switch. Now the power LED is probably the white one, probably the one with the white LED at the end of it. See what we have at the other end. Sure enough, that's it. That's the power LED, right?
Yep.
So there's a plus and a minus. You put the plus to the left, right next to that, the two right next to it. Put the plus to the left according to the book, and the minus to the right. Do you see those? Can you squeeze those in there?
Sorry, plus to the left?
Plus to the left, yeah. From your angle, yeah. And the negative right to the right of that. So now you got 4 pins in a row. Now you got the same thing for the hard drive LED. And it's also got a plus and a minus. And according to the book, the hard drive LED is across from the power LED.
Across?
Yeah, in the bottom. It's the bottom row.
Okay. And plus is on the left side?
Can you see this? I can't see. You've probably written underneath it too.
HDD LED?
Yeah, which one is a plus? Left or right?
Plus on the left.
The left. So okay, the plus is on the left then.
It's HD.
LED. That's the hard drive LED. That's what I'll tell you when the hard drive is being accessed. We don't need this for purposes of our test, but we're practicing plugging these pins in too. Okay, and then the last one that you have is the reset switch. And according to this, the reset is the next two over, and there's no polarity to that, so you can put them any way you want. What I do with the no polarity ones, I try to make sure they match the writing, just so we can read it. So that's perfect. So now we have all this stuff here set out. We're going to see LEDs, lighting. We're going to have switches we can push. This is the power one. So this is the most important one right here. We're going to keep that one out. So now what we can do is this is the power. This is what we're going to use to power the thing on with. Once we apply power to the power supply.
Okay.
So we hang that out there. So it's nice and handy. Okay. Let's put this on the back of the power supply so you have power for the power supply. And then we'll plug it in right behind you there.
Should I plug it into there first?
Yeah, just plug it into there first. The switch is off. So plug it into there. We'll plug it into the behind you. Now you're going to have to turn that little switch on the power supply first. So you hit that little switch on the power supply.
Ready?
Yeah. The board may light up. The motherboard may light up at this point when you turn it on. Did you turn it on?
There we go.
So the motherboard lit up, but it's not on right now.
Yeah.
We are not on. You don't see the fan turning. So the fan is not turning. So then we should see something happen on the monitor when we turn this thing on. You want to hit the switch?
Okay. So wait, double check. Okay. Okay, so we plugged in a monitor that we can see if it's running. Right now we have the on switch on for the power source.
Right.
So we're just going to press the button and see if it works. We attach the monitor and we have the power supply on. I have my test switch attached to the power source.
Power switch header, yep.
Header. And let's see what happens. Ready? Wow.
Wow, I see colors. We don't have the RGB on the cooler at this point. It's not connected to anything. We could connect it if you wanted to. There's an RGB connector over here. You can just plug it in here temporarily if you want to see colors on that. Make sure you get it right though. There's a 12 volt here, a little arrow.
Mm-hmm.
The one all the way to the left is the 12 volt. So you want that arrow all the way to the left right there. There you go. There's now it's going to match the motherboard. So you see the motherboard doing its colors? Mm-hmm. The fan is doing that. The memory is on its own. And this guy's just doing blue over here. So we got a lot of colors going on here.
Okay.
Did you see some on the screen? I didn't. We got the power LED on. It's a blue, not white. Hit the reset. Let me see what we got here. But there we are in the BIOS. Automatically in the BIOS because it didn't see a hard drive. Or at least not a hard drive that it can do anything with. Fan is turning, right? Yep. So we're good. We're at 28 degrees centigrade. We see both dim memories. Okay, we're back. Had a little bit of a scare, just to let everybody know. I thought that the M2 drive was either bad or the motherboard was bad or something was wrong with it. So we did some troubleshooting and we found out that it's just the Asus motherboard. I went and compared it to my other Asus motherboard. It will not show the M2 drive until an operating system is installed on it. I was able to get Windows installed started. I aborted it before it started writing to the drive, the M2 drive that is, but it did recognize it. which is a key accomplishment, because I remember when we first were trying to put an M2 drive under Windows 7, it did not see it, and that's a problem. So now we're ready to start getting this in the case.
Yeah.
So at this point, we just need to take everything off here.
Am I putting this down flat?
Well, first disconnect all this other stuff that's on here. We can disconnect
So
everything,
connect these
basically.
things?
Yeah, just pull them out.
These are just for testing, right?
Yeah, that's all they are. This is just the test ones.
Taking a power source.
Power off too, everything, yep. We can turn this whole thing around, and you should be able to push that and pull it out. Oh yeah, it's being stubborn.
Getting one out.
One out at a time. There we go, that one's out. Now we can do the other thing. The connector for the main power, the 24. Same deal, you gotta push that and try to pull that out. Pain. I mean, another thing is in there tight. I know that. Let me try. Let's push this in. This is one of the things that always challenges new PC builders, because they don't realize that this can be stubborn. To get it out. And you don't want to break it. Yeah, that's the problem. You don't realize that it can, that, you know, you can be somewhat tough. It could break the motherboard if you go crazy with it.
Okay, so we removed the power from this and we removed the wires, the test wires. So we have to get this.
You can lie it flat if you want, if you think that might help you.
And this goes in here, right?
Right, that goes in there. So you can actually lie it flat. It might be easier, or maybe not. You never know.
I think this is like my height, though, like here.
Just make sure you get the right way. It has to match the way the motherboard's going to go in there. Remember that. The motherboard's going to go in the opposite way here. The motherboard, when it goes in, will be like this. For those in the camera, it'll be like this. So you have to match it to these connectors.
I'm going this way.
Yes, that's how it has to go in. That's it.
Like that.
So that's the orientation that you want as you come around. It's got to come from the inside. Yep.
So it's just that there's no hardware, it just snaps.
Just snaps in, but that's the problem. It's not necessarily the friendliest of snapping in. I think actually no two I/O shields and no two cases are manufactured the same. Even though they have a standard measurement, I don't know if they want to be accurate to this. Yeah. So you got to click first one side, one corner, then you got to go to the opposite corner. You got to try to push it in. There you go. Now you got to try to get the opposite. Now you got to do the same thing to the top while you hold the bottom, or else the bottom pops out. That's one of the tricks I've learned over the time. You got to hold the bottom. There you go. That's good. I think you got it.
This corner's a little bit iffy though.
Oh yeah, you're good. Good. Perfect. Wow. Better than my first time.
Little fingers.
I can tell you what that is. That's better than mine. Okay, now probably best to put the thing down now and get the motherboard in. Putting the motherboard in while it's vertical.
Take these wires out.
No, we'll leave them in for now. We'll get that. We'll get that once we get the motherboard installed. Yeah, so just put it like that. And then you got to get it up in that corner there. Now let's get the right screws first for that. This one has 3 on the bottom here. So 1 here, 1 here, and 1 over here. And then it's got 3 in the middle, it looks like. 1 here, 1 here, and 1 way over here. And then it's got 3 at the top. So this is a full ATX. So it has 9. So there's 3 up there too. So it's going to use all 9 of those, and all 9 are already installed. I noted that during my case review that all of these standoffs were already installed. Sometimes they're not. They leave some out, but this one has them all, so that's a good thing. Let's find the screws. Number 3, I know that I've used standoffs for other purposes.
So not every screw is gonna fit?
No, there's 2 different popular threads. There's a metric M3, and there's a 6-32, which is not metric. That's a regular English system. So there's a mix of screws when it comes to computer cases. For example, this, if you look at the thread on it, that's a 6-32. That's what you use to hold certain type of hard drives and other devices into the case. See it right there better. So that's, you're going to see a lot of these, the 6-32. But the smaller thread, whenever you see that little hood on it, that usually means it's an M3. Only like maybe 10 of those. So we got, you got that screw there. You want to put it on from the side. Is there 9?
9.
Okay, good. So now we got to take the motherboard and slip it in there. It's easier to just grab it by up here, around this part. So try not to get your fingers in here, it might cut you. Just grab it around where the part that you can do, right there. You tilt it now. You got to tilt it into the I/O panel.
There's a wire.
Is there a wire where?
Okay, just tilt it. It goes into the back.
It goes into the back. Oh, that's the fan wire. Okay. So you got to tilt it in to get it into the I/O. That's the trick, getting into the I/O shield.
Yeah, it looks like it's in.
And then so we try it. We push it down in.
Oh,
You have those little pins?
Yeah, I see them.
Yeah, that's it. So we put one screw in here and then we check the pin. So let's put one screw in this one corner right here. The center one in the back, just partly in, just enough so we can check to make sure that the tongues on that I/O shield are not going into a connector the wrong way. So then we can come in here and we can look at it. So we got to make sure that all of these tongues are proper. Look at this tongue here. This is the problem that I see. You see the way it is? So we got to pull it back out and get that tongue. This tongue over here is also wrong.
Where are they supposed to be? Behind it?
Well, these two should be behind it, right? On the other side of it. And these two should be not in between the two. So this is one of the things that always happens. So at this point, remove that screw and we'll have to jiggle it this way. This will probably be the best way to do it until we get it in place. Remove that screw, I'll hold it, and then we'll get it. Okay, now let's back it off. Let's back it off a little bit like that.
Can I use a screwdriver and push it?
You can.
So I want this one behind?
Yeah. You really just have to get it on the other side of the connector. You just don't want it to come up inside the connector the way it was. Yeah, it's a little tad. This is different this tongue, so I'm straightening it out. I'm modifying it. I'm going to try to make sure it matches this and comes on the other side of it. Now keep in mind that I/O shield was made for this motherboard, so it should be something that does generally work. There we go. That's what we need to do right there. The tab actually is the other side of it. There we go. We had to actually lift it out of there. That's it. So now it's in.
Can I put that screw back in?
Let's see if we can get the screw back in. Can you see the screw head? Do you see the standoff on the other side?
It's a brass part.
We're not lined up. There we go. Now we're lined up. There we go. Perfect. Okay, we double check. Make sure everything is lined up. There's no tongues in the wrong place. The antenna was sticking out a little more, but that's okay. I got it by just wiggling it over a little bit. Everything looks clear. All the tongues are out of the way. No shorts going on, because that's a problem. If something like that were to go inside that connector. By the way, does that connector look familiar? That's the latest connectors.
Oh, the USB-C?
The USB-C, yes. Yeah, so that, but USB-C transfers to this motherboard. So we're good. Now we can put the rest of the screws in.
So we have 1 and
We
3
got
more.
8 more to go. This is where a magnetic screwdriver comes in handy. You should be able to put most of them and have them held in the screwdriver. And just put it in there. Don't tighten them all the way. You put them down most of the way. We got all these cables. These go onto the motherboard. These are connectors we didn't need to do before. They're for the, one is for the USB 3. One is for the USB 2.0, and this is the audio, the high definition audio. So these have to go to the front to get into the motherboard. What we normally do is try not to have them show too much. We put them all through this hole for now, but the idea is to get the wires out of the view of these holes as much as possible. That's the idea. If we don't need it, we can always cut it. One thing that you find when you're dressing cables for a computer system build, you wind up cutting a lot of the ones you just added. That's okay. That's why you buy those things, you know, in packages of 500. Let's see where everything goes, though. That's the USB 3, so we might be better bringing that one through here.
So the tab. Oh, I see. There's a little
Yeah,
notch.
a little notch there. There's a little notch. You just plug it in there.
And it says, where does it say USB?
U3101 01 to 56. That's the USB. We can always look at the manual if we're not sure, but that is the only place it can plug. There's no other plug like that in the motherboard. Yep, that's it. And we'll be pulling that back through when we finalize the cable dressing. But now these go all the way over here. The front panel stuff, all of these little thin wires with all these little labels on them, they all plug in there into various parts of that. Okay, we're back. We found the manual. One of the things I did, which we won't be demonstrating on this video, BIOS. It was quite a ways off. This thing had the Asus chipset H370 BIOS and only version 6.02 and upgraded it to 15.02. Thinking that that was our problem with why I wasn't seeing the M2 device on the screens in the BIOS. In reality, you don't ever see that until an operating system is loaded, like I said earlier. So with that, we have to look at these pins. But now we're upside down.
Okay.
So when we look at this, we have to...
oh boy.
So the power LED, you got the H-trig, the LEDs, the power switch is right next to that. So the power LED plus is the bottom one all the way to the right.
Okay. Do you want to feed these through this way first? All these wires are going?
Yeah, we can feed them all the way, all through there, yes.
So
We
these
can
wires.
feed those all through.
I got it.
Got them? So we're taking all these little wires and we're going to come up right through here. We pick the nearest opening so we can hide the cables. And that, is there one more? Oh, because this is a pair. They're together already. So it's 4 pairs. Okay, good. This drawer right here is where you put 2 more hard drives. Full size, 3.5 inch, like the spinning drives. Here we go. There's room here for 2 of those drives. There's a cage here. Cabinet. Put it in so you can't even take it out. It's gonna go in here, which is what I want you to put in next.
Okay, so we're putting it in from above? From back here?
Yeah, from back here. Well, you gotta stick it through here.
So,
You've gotta stick it right in through this hole here and then come over here with it.
how do I do this?
Now the way it does is the fan is gonna go down because it's gonna blow the air through here. The power supply is a
Can you zoom out?
self-contained unit. What was that?
Do you zoom out? So,
So the fan's gonna go down, and you orient the rest of it to whatever it can accept, and you fit that in here like this, like that. And there's 4 screws. Remember the 4 screws that came with the power supply? They're going to go over here. These are the ones. They gave them to you so you can hand twist them. So there's 4 of those guys. And I'm moving so you see the hole best you can. Maybe you drop too low at this point. And then this one here, look, you see this little half opening here, and then these other 2. So they all have a place to go. It's very common with the power supplies to make one offset for some reason.
I don't know how that's gonna fit.
What's that?
I'm not sure that one's gonna fit.
Let's stand it up here. Let's see if it makes a difference. If I stand it up and I tighten this, it's not as much of a. It's not like dealing with a motherboard, dealing with a power supply case. You know, it's a bit more flexibility here. It's not gonna get upset. Okay. So that's it. The power supply is in, but now we got to figure out where all these cables go. Now this is the same thing we were dealing with before. Do you remember which one had to go all the way up there in the corner? It was an 8-pin or 2 4s.
The big one.
Now the big one goes on the side, believe it or not.
Okay, so we'll move on the side.
Yeah, there's one that goes all the way at the top. You want to look at it first? Here's a picture of it. So there's one that goes way up here. See that? That's it. Those 2. You got to squeeze them through that little hole up here.
This little hole here?
All the way up there, yes. You know what we do before they do it? It doesn't matter. We're going to be moving those again. But I'll start off by putting these underneath all of these other jumbled up wires, because I like to keep the power supply as close to the cabinet as possible.
Okay.
Right? So we're going to get that up into that little hole here, right? So it's going to go like that. That's usually the one that's way out of place. It doesn't make good cable alignment. It doesn't matter. You're not going to see it with a black panel on this one. This one here goes in the side. Matter of fact, you see here on the side here, it's more towards the top.
This big one?
Yeah, two big ones, right? There's two together, right? Yeah, there's two together. So it'll go in either this one or that one. Let's try this one for now, and we can move it if we have to. Let's get it underneath all these cables too. So those are the first ones to put on. That's the motherboard power. Okay, so we come back around and we turn the whole thing back over again. And now, this is where it gets difficult, especially up there. So the ones that are up in here, look at those two. Remember how hard they were to put before?
Yeah.
It's twice as hard or more at this point to try to get those in there. Looks like you're doing good. The camera's not going to see this, but oh well. Getting those in is one of the biggest challenges of installing a motherboard into a case. You got smaller fingers than I do. A little bit higher, it looks like. There we go. That's it. And then that one on the other side of it. Now this is a relatively inexpensive power supply. It is an 80 plus, but it's just still at the low end of the cost cycle for that. Which is why you see the wires of colors other than black.
Huh.
The big time gamers, they're gonna, if they see this video, they're gonna complain about this. They're gonna say why. They're gonna say, why did you buy such a cheap power supply? It's called what is it called? Ketchup and mustard cables. Because they can see the colors. They can see the red. They can see the yellow. I don't know where orange comes in, but they call these ketchup and mustard cables. They're cheap, for cheaper power supplies. And then the same thing for this one. You see how this one shows?
Yeah.
The more expensive power supplies, they don't show those colors. So this one should just be able to tweak in and go like that, actually, at this point. We got the right hole. Let's go. That hole's good enough, right? Snap in. You've always got to tug these. See how it popped out?
Yeah.
You can see the clip is not down. If you wiggle it sometimes, it'll pop in. And I see it in now. So now I know it's in because it popped in. The two arrows are completely together. So on the camera, let's show that. You see the two arrows completely together on that. So you know they're together and they're right down, it's leveled. The clip is actually connected in. We push their excess back, we're going to actually cable tie that on the other side. So you want the minimum amount of stuff inside the case. The same thing with this one. When I push this back out, gotta be careful, this one could have a strain on it, but now these are the last two that you have to put. One is called the audio, and you can't get these wrong. They're different cables.
Oh, these two.
These two, right? One is the high definition audio, HD audio,
Okay.
and this one here is the regular USB. According to the layout of the motherboard, I think 12.
These two?
Yeah. Which ones are they? I can't see them. Those-
Number 10.
Well, you got your choice between the USB. Matter of fact, we can come up through the back of this with this one if we want to get to these, because you have openings there in the shroud.
Yeah.
So let's push these out. Let's get these pushed out again. That'll make it look neater. Hopefully they reach. Sometimes you can't get it to reach when you do that. 13 is what we want, that one at the end. So that one at the end is 13. We can tell right away if the pins match. In either case, we know where we could come out. Yeah. Is it missing the right pin? It looks like it is. If you put it in this way,
Yeah.
you see that pin that's missing right there?
Yeah.
So that one looks like the audio is good if you put it on that one without the plastic thing around it. Okay, that looks good. And then this one here, either one of those.
Either one.
Either one, whichever one you like. You got an extra in here.
And this is USB.
Yep, this is USB. But you have extra USB, so if you wanted to put more USBs, we have a connector for it. Some cases will actually have the ability to put more of them. Be cooperative. There we go. Let me just put it like that, and then it makes it easier to hide those cables.
So we have power cord connected.
Yeah. So the question is, where does this Molex go, right? Did we connect that Molex up? Yeah. The idea is I wanted to connect the Molex to, and to the one without the 3 1/4, the 3 1/2 inch on it. That's the one I want, and we need this out. So I was going to connect this to this one. That should keep us good for the RGB.
And the actual fans.
And the fans themselves, yes. That should kick it off. I'll fix this later in terms of all of these cable management things that I was doing. We'll just move ahead and make sure we can come up again. We didn't break anything along the way with the cable management. So this is the video.
Oh.
So we'll do the video first. The video goes right in here. We have the power supply cable here. We need a keyboard and mouse. Connect that up to the USBs. You use these black ones, which is the USB 2.0. It's the right way to put the keyboard and mouse. It's a hint too that they're at the top. We got this. We'll plug it in.
So is this the only way to turn it on is back here, or can I use the one on the front as well?
You can use the one in the front too. But this turns on the power supply. It doesn't turn on the computer. You still have to hit that one.
Is this on?
Yeah, turn that on. The motherboard is now on, but the computer is not on. So hit the power button. It's up on the top here. Hit the power switch. There we go.
Wow.
I see lights.
Yes. Do as well.
And it's actually coming up on the monitor too.
It's crazy.
Right. But again, we have nothing to boot from. Now we can actually install Windows. We can actually install Windows at this point. So if I take the Windows installer disk over here, a USB. Let me turn this monitor around so. Okay, we just have to hit power again to shut it off. Now put this into a USB 3.0. USB 3.0 is identified by the blue. This is the Windows USB install, latest version, 1903. So we're going to install this one into this computer. So you plug this in to the 3.0, either one of those 3.0 ones there. Takes a little, there we go. Okay. Bring the mouse and keyboard over here, out of the way, and then we power it on. When we power it on, it should automatically come up with the power on switch. You got your RGB, and you got turning fans. I see all the fans turning here. That was easy. It was already wired. The fans using their special connect. We just had to give it power. I see the USB 3.0 pumping out on the back here. Hey, you want to sit down? You can answer the questions in installing Windows. How's that?
How long does it usually take?
It doesn't take long at all. That's one thing nice about having such a fast M2 drive. It will install extremely fast, and then that'll be able to call it for the day on us, I think. Just say next, yeah. Install now. There's nothing that prevents us from redoing it, even if we did it wrong. Do it without a key. I'll add the key later. No, hit that one there. It says no key. You have no key. Now, do you want Windows Home or Windows Professional?
Home.
Home. So just hit next. It's already set for that.
Professional.
It has a lot more features to it, mostly administrative features. We could always change it later. No big deal. Now click the bottom one for custom install. It sees the hard drive. All you have to do is say next. It'll install on the M2. There it is. It's installing. And it's very fast when you have an M2 drive. Extremely fast. This is when you really feel it, the benefit of the M2 over having a non-M2. I'll need it. Okay. How's it look? Pretty colors, huh?
I like it.
Yeah, all the pretty colors.
Well, can I put my glass on here?
What are you gonna put?
The glass.
Oh yeah, we're gonna put the glass on before we're done. I'm gonna close it up. You can only see the RGB on the power supply in the back. Or if you're looking at the bottom, it's there. It'll probably have a glow when you put it on a table.
Yeah.
It'll have a glow onto the bottom of the table. Can you put glass on now for you? Well, maybe we should finish the back first. Let me put the back. What's that?
Can I put the back on?
I'll put the back on, yeah. Just tuck everything out of the way in the back there. And we'll get the back on. It's nothing to see on the camera, so we'll just get the screws out of this thing. Let the covers go on. The glass ones have the short ones. This is one thing to note. The glass ones have the short ones.
Okay.
See the short screws versus the long ones? Put the glass ones there. Well, take it back. The side is short, the front is tall, and then these two are the back panel. So the back panel we can actually get on here.
What'd I do?
I don't know. It's rebooting. It's probably done. See, comes up into Windows. It's Windows. You see the Windows symbol on the bottom? Windows is coming up. Getting ready. That's Windows talking.
So I'm not gonna be connected to your network, so
We can connect you to the network.
I'm gonna physically move this computer elsewhere. So.
Yeah, but for temporary, for getting to the internet, if you want to play with it, you can connect it up. It'll work fine. You don't have to make it part of the network, but you can get through the network to the internet. That's to say, that's the way the server behind you is right now. I didn't make it part of the network. We can pull the network cable off of that and put it right over here. Matter of fact, give it to me. Let me go over there and get that. We'll just connect it right up, and you'll see what I mean. That way it'll set the drivers up properly, too. That was actually, I'm glad you mentioned, because I'm not using the network on this thing at all. Do you know where this goes? Oh no, I unplugged it by accident. It should reboot because we're already past the load. Sorry about that, folks. I accidentally hit it and unplugged it. You know where this goes on here? Let's turn this back on again. Again, no harm, no foul.
I have an extra one of these from my last computer.
Yeah, I've got a million network cables, no problem at all. Okay, it should recover because it was in the middle of doing something. If it doesn't, we erase it and start over. No big deal, it'll take a few minutes. Just way we'll be able to see if it sees the network. Oh, it did, so now we can answer these questions. What's the first one?
Country.
Is that good? Design United States, yeah?
No? Oh, yeah, it is, yeah.
Hit next. US, keyboard. We don't have a second keyboard. Does that skip? I'll let you answer it.
Can I just skip this? Do I need a Microsoft account?
No, say no Microsoft account now. Pick a name you want to use. Put a password, let's see. Give it a password. Confirm the password. Now it asks you 3 security questions. You can always change those. So I'm putting these panels on. Let me clean the inside of this glass. I have paper towels, I have alcohol. There you go, you're on. I think it got to the internet too, didn't it? You probably did.
Yep.
Did you get to it? Yep, you got Google.
Yep. Okay. So now just the graphics card and that's it?
That's it, the graphic card and we're done. Is that what you thought it was going to look like?
I can't really see it from...
Squeeze out. Again, it's got the plastic on it right now.
Yeah.
You're supposed to take the plastic off in a certain way, but you probably want to leave it on there while you move it, right? Yeah. Okay, there you go. I'll turn this light off even, so let the camera see a little bit better. Okay.
Thank you.
That's it for now. Okay, that completes part 2 of my daughter's gaming PC build. Once again, I hope you'll go ahead and help my channel grow and subscribe to it. Just click on this little head here and it'll be very helpful for us. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.